Welcome to the House of History, where minds clash, egos explode, and history is anything but boring. Tonight, our thinkers Augustine of Hippo, Thomas Aquinas, Herodotus, and Edmund Spenser will battle over the burning question: what is the purpose of human history?
So, what are your thoughts on history?
History is, of course, the unfolding of God's divine plan. We are all players in the grand narrative of salvation. Mankind's purpose is to move toward redemption. I think I nailed this in the city of God. But we're all just getting in the way, aren't we?
Well, Augustine has his ideas, but I, for one, believe human history is about reason and order. We can use our rational nature to understand God's plan, but history is a test to see how well we can use our intellect to improve society and our souls. We've got a reason, right?
So, what are your thoughts on history?
History is simply the story of us all, the good, the bad, and the ugly. It's about what people do, why they do it, and let's be honest, how they screw it up. We can learn from these mistakes, but mostly we're just here to tell the tales. Sometimes the stories themselves are the purpose.
Human history, you ask? Oh, it is quite the grand ballet, a dance of virtues, where morals hold sway. In the Fairy Queen, I wrote a tale so bright of noble knights in their valiant fight. Through triumph and trial, through joy and sorrow, we strive for a world that is better tomorrow. Each story, each twist, each noble quest is a lesson, a guide to make us our best. For history is not just dust and stone, but moral tales that make us whole and alone.
You know you don't need a rhyme, right?
Let's start simple. History serves a rational purpose. It's a path to virtue. People are born to use reason. Through time, we perfect ourselves in society by engaging in theological and philosophical thought. We cannot ignore the intellectual framework.
Oh, absolutely. But let's be real, Aquinas. Do you really think we're rational? Look around. People all over the place committing sins left and right. It is ultimately a battle for redemption, not for reason alone. That is what I wrote in the city of God. It's divine providence unfolding before our eyes.
Ha ha ha. You two sound like you're fighting over how we fall from grace. But I think history's purpose is simpler than that. It's about the stories, the narratives, what people do, why they do it. We make mistakes, we learn. Sometimes we don't. It's all part of the human condition. If we don't tell stories, we forget who we are.
But it's not forgetting who we are, no, dear friend, but becoming who we must be in the end. The purpose of history, a quest so grand. March towards virtue, hand in hand. In Fairy Queen, I've shown the strife, where heroes rise, their toil in life. They struggle, they falter, they learn, they grow, becoming the best versions of what we know. For through history, we are meant to see the courage to reach what we're meant to be.
But it's in the title of the genre, Spenser. It's romanticism. There's a clear logic in how we move forward. If we engage with intellectual and theological traditions, we have a foundation for understanding and improving human nature. History is a test of our reason.
Sure, reason. But you've got to admit, Aquinas, sometimes it's the stories that teach us the most, even if they're not as tidy as you want. See, this is what I'm talking about. Augustine's stuck in his divine plan thing, Aquinas is over there with his philosophy, and Spenser's living in a fairy tale world. But the real story is what happens, not what we wish would happen. That's what history teaches you, and sometimes it's messy.
I'm sorry, Herodotus, but history cannot just be about the chaos. It is in order. There is a plan. You cannot deny that human history is driven by God's will. We are moving towards salvation, and our sins are parts of that narrative.
Salvation? Come on. Some people are just trying to get by. God's will is one thing, but it's the everyday decisions of rulers, generals, and regular folks that shape history. Forget the divine plan. History is driven by human action, and that's often
Human action. Yes, it plays a part, but the true arc of history, it is a work of the heart. For through the ages, heroes ascend, where villains fall, their reign must end. It's virtue that triumphs, shining bright, guiding us all through day and through the night. And therein lies history's meaning true, the moral journey that we all must pursue.
Spencer, virtue isn't just a story. It's about logic. We can't just hope for virtue. We must reason towards it. Human history has a structure. We don't just wish for improvement. We understand it. We study it. We grow through reason.
Well, I wish it were as neat as your reasoning, Aquinas. But life isn't all about the intellectual pursuit. You cannot ignore the role of divine intervention in human history.
Oh, this is rich. You guys really think people are going to sit down and reason their way to a perfect world? History's full of passion, war, mistakes, and stories. Stories are what matter.
This guy's honestly. All I'm saying is there is an objective reason behind everything. History isn't just a series of random events. If they just listened to reason, maybe we wouldn't be here arguing about whether humans can be better or if we're all doomed to repeat our mistakes. They should just read Summa Theologica. That's all I'm saying.
I know, I'm sick of you.
Are what matters.
Okay, go ahead.
You think you alone hold virtue's key with your logic, your reason, so plain to see. Oh, you want order, you want it neat, but virtue is a fire, not some simple feat. It is not just about reason, oh no, my friend. It is about will to rise, to transcend, to mend. You can't box it up, you can't make it small. Virtue's a quest, a journey for all.
I'm not putting in the box. I'm organizing the universe according to reason, which is how we actually move forward. You're talking about fairy tales, Spencer? This isn't Camelot.
Ha ha ha! Oh, here we go. The fairy tale and the logic clash. Maybe if you two stopped acting like you have all the answers, we'd get somewhere. You don't want a story, but it's the story that makes history worth remembering.
Enough! You two are missing the point. History is a divine story. You cannot strip God's will from the equation. You are so caught up in your human reasoning and stories that you have lost sight of the divine purpose of history.
Well, I guess that makes me the outsider here. I'll just go on telling my messy little stories while you guys sort out your tidy divine plans. Have fun with that.
Well, I guess we won't be hearing any more from our friend Herodotus tonight.
I'm not sure he was listening anyway, but I think we've made some progress here.
I suppose. We all have our roles to play in this history. Maybe, just maybe, there's some truth in each of our arguments, even in his wild storytelling.
Yes, perhaps we should all be a little bit more virtuous and less concerned about winning this debate.
So, what really is the purpose of history? And how does it relate to today's time? Maybe it's all of the above. A bit of divine plan, a dash of reason, a sprinkle of virtue, and, don't forget, the stories. Let's see what our cast thinks.
Welcome, everyone. We're here with the incredible cast of House of History. Let's start by introducing yourselves and telling us a little bit about your character's take on the meaning behind human history. Augustine, you're up first.
Hi guys, I'm Naomi, Cha, and I am
Acting as Augustine. Augustine sees history as a story of salvation with a clear beginning and end driven by God's divine plan. For him, human history is a battle between the city of God and the city of man, good versus evil, faith versus sin. I think he'd argue that every moment in history, no matter how chaotic, is a part of this grand narrative. It's honestly a heavy role to play. Imagine carrying the weight of eternity on your shoulders. Great. Thanks, guys.
Absolutely fascinating. And Aquinas, tell us about your take.
Well, hi, I'm Gaia, and I portray Thomas Aquinas. So, Aquinas' perspective is all about reason and structure. He believes that human history is a logical progression toward understanding and improving ourselves using intellect as our guide. He's like, guys, there's a framework here, stick to it. It's a very academic approach to history. It makes sense when you think about how he tied faith and reason together in his philosophy. I tried to bring out his confidence and maybe a little frustration with how messy history and people can be.
Speaking of messy, Herodotus, you had quite a different vibe in the show. Tell us about that.
Hello, I'm Elizabeth, and I got to play Herodotus, the so-called father of history. Herodotus is all about the human side of history, the stories, the drama, and the lessons we can learn. He doesn't see a neat divine plan or logical structure. Instead, he focuses on people's choices and their consequences. Playing him was a blast because he's such a realist, but also a little cheeky. He loves the messiness of humanity. And so do I.
Love that. And finally, Spenser. Your role was full of poetry, literally and figuratively.
Yep, I'm Riley. I had a great time playing Edmund Spenser. He's whimsical, he's fun. How can you not love him?
Right.
For Spenser, history is like one of his poems. A grand allegory. It's all about moral journey and the pursuit of virtue, becoming the best versions of ourselves. He sees it as like this epic tale, but also it is rooted in like his Christianic belief. And I thought it would be fun to bring out a bit of like what he wrote and add that into his thing. So I made him a bit romantic, whimsical, and made him rhyme and everything. So that was a lot of fun.
It's incredible how each of your characters sees history so differently. Did playing these roles change how you see history?
Yeah, it did. Like, before this, playing Augustine, I kind of thought, like, history was just a bunch of, like, events that happened that followed one after each other. But after, like, learning about Augustine and everything, I could tell that, like, everything led up to a certain plan. So everything had a reason, and I think it was all because of God's plan and everything like Augustine was thinking.
So what I think, I feel connected with Herodotus' character because I think history is made to remember and not commit the same mistakes, maybe. So yeah.
I think I agree with also Herodotus' character because, yeah, same. I think history is like to remember, obviously to remember like what people did in the past and like see their mistakes and like learn from their mistakes and try to improve. But also I think it's partly like Augustine's divine plan because I think God has a part to play in history and like he's like guiding it.
Yeah, I think it was really fun because I got to play a character who's fighting very much like for virtue and everything, but I also got to see like all the different characters' perspectives. And I think in the end, it's like, it's not just about what like my character made me think, but what the whole discussion made me think more about. And I'd have to agree with like what most of you guys were saying, where it's like, it's a mix of all of them. Like there's a grain of truth into what everyone is saying. And I think that's the joy of playing a character in the House of History.
Do you have any plans to reprise these roles at a later time?
Oh, like sequel?
Yes.
Well,
I would do it.
Yeah.
If
I
we
mean,
had
like,
time.
Coming soon
I don't.
in theaters.
I mean, we'll have to see how the audience reacts to this first season.
Right.
But
Yeah.
yeah.
Thanks so much, everyone. Any final thoughts on House of History?
It was really fun to play.
Yeah, no, this
were
was a
hilarious.
great experience.
Yeah.
Enjoyed
dressing up.
iconic, yeah.
Thank
for
you.
watching.
Yeah.
Thank you for your responses, and that's all our time for today. I'm your host, Percival Epoxworth. Until next time on the House of History.